All right, welcome, guys. Bridger, welcome to the show. Thank you for being our guest. Guys, if you guys don't know, we have Bridger Pennington here. He is a superstar, not just in the business world, but also as a dad. Bridger, how you going?
Wow, I'm honored to be on, you guys. This is awesome. You guys are early morning. I feel so bad still that you guys, it's like 5 a.m. there. But it's like 3 o'clock for me. I'm feeling great. It's right now in the afternoon.
Well, thanks, bro. Thanks for saying
I already feel bad. So anyways, excited to be on. You guys are awesome. This is going to be a fun call.
Awesome. Well, hey, look, I'm going to cue the little bit of an intro about you, Bridger. So if you guys don't know, Bridger Pennington is the founder of 2 investment funds that have done over 217 deals in the last 4 years. He's in the process of a new crypto fund that is around $15 million in soft commitments. It's doing absolutely amazing. So
that one we already launched.
Boom, amazing.
We've got hard commitments now. We've got 10.25 hard committed in 8 days. So we're trying to go to 50 million. So I'll cut you off there. But yeah, it's been fun.
That's amazing. And so if you guys don't know, right, so we're looking at the investment fund from, obviously, we got the fiat currency, obviously, that Bridger deals with, and now he's moving into the crypto space as well. And this is big movements, right? Big trends are coming out in this industry. We're going to unpack all of this inside the interview. And he's been helping other people launch their own funds through Investment Fund Secrets. It's his online program where he helps over 4,000 students design to help them generate investment funds, right? So do you want to give us a little bit of a background into that, Bridger? Like, how did you get into business? What do you do now? And obviously, how are you finding that responsibility as a dad?
Yeah, it's fun. I'll give you the quick background. Feel free to cut me off, interrupt me, whatever. Yeah, I grew up in I would say a regular household, average household. It was awesome. Nothing wrong. My dad was an entrepreneur. So he started a bunch of businesses, did well and did poorly sometimes and whatever. We just lived in a normal house. I got into college very ambitious. I wanted to make a ton of money really quickly. And so I went to work. I started 6 companies my first years of college. I started Chinese. I actually lived in Taiwan for 2 years, right? So between high school and college, I lived in Taiwan for 2 years on a church mission, which was really cool. I spoke Mandarin Chinese. So I came home and started teaching kids about Mandarin. And we had all these tutors lined up. It was a fun business. Anyways, margins were terrible. I did a landscaping thing. We flipped 2 houses. I started building websites for people. We did a Forex thing. We started selling essential oils. I mean, I did everything that you could find on YouTube, all the YouTube businesses. And finally, my dad, I know you guys are talking about dad. So I had a dad sit me down and go, Bridger, you're kind of like a chicken with your head cut off. I want you to go meet with one of my business partners. This guy can really help you out. And so I said, okay, cool. I'll go meet with whoever. And I drive up to this guy's house. He lives in this gorgeous, beautiful mansion. It's a huge area, like gated community, this massive home. He's got the pool in the backyard, the cars, the basement, basketball court. I mean, it was massive. And I knock on this guy's door. He lets me in. I walk through his house. I'm like, just wow, like just blown away. And I sit there and I finally just ask him, like, how did you get all of this? Like, how'd you do this? And he goes, it's funny, Bridger, not a lot of people ask me that question. And I was like, oh shoot, like that's the only question I had. Like that's one question I had. It was like, how did you make all this money? And he goes, no, it's fine. Like I'll tell you. And he goes, I was in my 20s. I was a lot like you. I started all these businesses. And then he goes, then I figured out the secrets of the ultra wealthy. I figured out what ultra wealthy people were doing and what they were doing. And I met a guy that ran a private equity fund. And at that time, this really young guy is making tons of money. And he goes, I don't care what I'm doing right now. I don't care how long it takes me, 5 years, 10 years, 20 years. I was going to figure out what a fund was, an investment fund, how to start one and how to scale one. So because that's what we did. We launched a real estate investment fund. And at the time, they were managing just around $8 billion of capital. So billion would be 8 billion, which was just crazy. And he goes, me and your dad's kind of started this with a bunch of other partners, and we've done pretty well. And actually today now they are over 30 billion, which is just wild. Nice. 10 times bigger than Cardone Capital. If you guys follow Grant Cardone online, things like that, 10 times bigger than them. Like and they're doing multifamily office buildings, the whole thing. Really crazy. So I was sitting there, I was like, dang, like this is amazing. And I'm like, I've always heard from podcasts and stuff, find a mentor, find mentors, get mentors. So I said, hey, will you be my mentor? I'd love to learn from this guy. Like, dude, I'll come over, I'll get you coffee, I'll run your errands, but just teach me. And he goes, Bridger, go talk to your dad. He goes, your dad knows way more about this than I do. And I said, no, my dad's kind of poor. My dad drove a car with 300,000 miles on it, old Ford Expedition. I said, no, my dad's kind of poor. Like, you're obviously very rich. I love to learn from you. And he goes, Bridger, sorry to break it to you, but me and your dad make about the same amount of money.
Yeah.
And my chin dropped to the floor. I was like, huh? Come again? Right? And he's like, yeah, we're pretty much equal business partners in this thing. And I left this dude's house. I drove straight to my dad's house. And I was like, Dad, what the heck? Like, what's going on? Like, why haven't I been able to order like a soda at the restaurant for past 10 years because it's too expensive? And yet, you're making all this money and like, what's going on? Right. And so anyways, he kind of laughed. Long story short, he goes, yeah, we're making pretty good money. He goes, I'm more conservative and my partner's more, show off and likes to spend stuff. But yeah, he goes, we run this big fund. And long story short, my dad started teaching me about funds. So every Sunday night I'd come over to his house. He'd drop on the whiteboard how funds work. And he taught me for months and months and months. I was in college at the time. I was working at another company to try to make money and whatever. And I had this great idea to do a fund at this other company. And so I talked to the owners. They loved the idea. We raised some capital. We put some money together. And I was like, dang, this is going to be amazing, right? So I go, and I'm so excited for this fund. And at this point, I hadn't raised capital. And I am like, shoot. The one thing you need for an investment fund, and by the way, the world of funds, all a fund really is just a pool of capital. You raise money in that pool and you can go buy stuff or invest or whatever it is. This is private equity, hedge funds, venture capital, real estate. They're all actually structured almost the same. And I was like, shoot, I've got to raise some money now. Like, what am I going to do? I don't know. Like, who am I going to pitch? And I thought, aha, my dad. Like, obviously, my dad's rich. He doesn't spend his money, right? He drives a crappy car. Like, he likes to invest. So he would love to invest in my thing probably. And so I remember it was a late Sunday night. I roll up to my dad's house. I'm like, okay, I'm going to pitch my dad. And so he's at his home office. He's working on stuff. I go walk in, Dad, can I meet with you for a minute? Sure, come on in. And I meet with him. He's sitting there and I go, Dad, in my best pitch voice possible, I go, Dad, how would you like to be our first investor into our new fund? And my dad kind of smiled and laughed at me. And he said, Bridger, I have the money to invest. But if I invest in your fund, it would ruin the experience of you raising money on your own.
Yeah.
He goes, your first investor is your hardest investor to find. This will be a crutch that you'll never be able to recover from. And he said, no. And he kicked me out. And I kind of walked out with my tail between my legs a little bit. And I said, shoot. And I took him up on the challenge. I said, screw it. I'm going to do this. And I went out. I hit the streets. I talked to everybody I knew. And former boss, college professor, like whoever, right? And I raised a whopping $49,000 US dollars in like 3 weeks, which is teeny. That's so small. It was like teeny, but it was enough to get started. It was just barely enough to get started. We launched our first little micro fund. We were doing these small short-term loans for like $3,000, $2,000, and it went really well. Our first group of investors, we got them a 64% return. It was amazing. And then we closed that little syndicate fund. We launched another fund. That second fund, we raised and deployed millions of dollars out of that fund. We ran that for about 4 years, did really, really well. We had a competitor come buy us out last year. And then right now we just launched this crypto fund. So we've raised over $10 million for this crypto fund. And we're hopefully going to get to $50 million here in the next 3 weeks. So
nice.
That's where
Bridger, I got to jump in there because you said I can jump in whenever you want, right? So that $49,000 that you raised or thereabouts, how many people did you have to go to get that 49 grand? Because I know 49 grand is not much money. But when you're going to someone, it's like, hey, look, invest in me because, I'm so trustworthy. I've got no one investing in me right now, but you should invest with me because you can trust me. I swear to God. Cross my fingers. I swear to God. Right? So it's like, how do you get these people to invest in you? And how many people did it take you to get to $49,000?
Yeah. So I think it was 7 people.
Oh, that's pretty good.
So 49. So everyone was like $5,000, $7,000, $10,000, like kind of people, which I was cool with. Like, I'll take whatever. And it's something my dad taught me too, was with raising capital. He goes, Bridger, he gave me a little story and this helped me a ton. He's like, Bridger, imagine that we found a Lamborghini, me and you, that was in this other neighboring city. And this lady's selling it. She's going into bankruptcy. We could buy the car for $50,000 this weekend on Saturday morning. And we can sell the car for $250,000 Monday morning. Okay, just imagine this deal, right? It's fire sale. This lady needs the capital by Saturday. He goes, you can't use any of your own money. Could you find $50,000 by Saturday morning? And I was like, hold on. So we buy it for $50,000. We can sell it for $250,000. We'll make a $200,000 profit, and I'll probably share that with my investors. But yeah, that's the deal. He says, yep, can you do it? Could you find $50,000 by Saturday morning? And it's 100% foolproof. It's guaranteed. It's 100% foolproof. And I was like, huh. And I kind of thought about it. I was like, you know what? I could probably talk to like a friend from high school or like a buddy or like a former boss, and I was like, huh. I was like, screw it. Yeah, I'll make $200,000 this weekend. Like, dang, I'll do it. I'll stay up late. I'll wake up like early like you guys are right now. I'll do whatever, right? Like, I'll make this thing happen. And I was like, yeah, you know what? It would probably almost kill me, but I bet I could find $50,000 by Saturday. He goes, what about $100,000? Could you find $100,000 by Saturday? And I was like, yeah, you know what? I think so. And he's like, why? And I said, well, you said the deal is foolproof. It's 100% guaranteed, right? And he goes, aha. And I go, what do you mean? And he goes, 3 minutes ago, you were telling me I'm too young, I'm inexperienced, I don't have the money, I don't have the tracker, I don't have the network. And all of a sudden, you're telling me you could find $50,000 or $100,000 by Saturday morning. Why? Because the deal was so good, it was foolproof. Most people, when they raise capital, don't believe in their deal enough. They don't believe in their deal like you believe in that Lamborghini deal. A lot of people raise capital, they go, hey, you wouldn't want to invest with me, would you? Right? Like when you go out and raise capital, you should be like, this is the greatest deal I've ever found on planet Earth. I'm putting all my own money in. I'm getting everybody's money in because this is the greatest thing on planet Earth. So sorry, I know I'm going a little long, but that's kind of what he taught me. And that's what I used to go out and raise that first initial capital.
Yeah, for sure. And there's so many like good lessons that your dad's taught you as well. And we'll unpack that as we go through. But you've recently become a new dad yourself. So tell us a little bit about that side of your life experience, finding out you were about to become a dad.
Yes, it was really fun. So anyways, I like to work. My wife, she worked we're both working. And I'm a pretty religious person, I would say. I try to be at least. I'm not perfect. I try to be, I try. And it was funny. Me and my wife had been talking about, and we've only been married 3 years. I'm 26 years old. She's 24 now. And we actually prayed. We prayed about, should we have a child? Like, should we have a baby right now? And we just felt very prompted, and both of us inclined like we should have a kid right now. And we were blessed. We were pregnant like I think a week or two later. Like we got pregnant almost immediately. Wow. And that was crazy, right? We found out over Christmas break, and then found out the dad was like, holy crap, And I think it's a funny thing. I've seen this with my friends too. Whenever they have their first child or whenever they get married, those 2 years, whatever year timeline that is, at least for some of my friends, they usually do really incredible things that year for whatever reason. Like I have a buddy who the year he got married, he set up a business and did like $1 million in sales that year, right? I have another buddy, the first year he got a baby, he's actually did a business too. He started a business and they did a bunch of sales and all this kind of stuff. I think there's something in the back of your brain that's like, oh shoot, like I'm the dad. Like I gotta freaking provide. I gotta step up. And that was true for me. We got pregnant and I launched a bunch of other stuff and new businesses and all sorts of fun stuff that we scaled that year. It was pretty crazy. But yeah, having that, and then we had the baby in August, and it was awesome, man. It was incredible. Anyways, we can talk more. I'm sure you have other questions, but yeah, it was awesome. I'll pause there.
We can delve into that for sure.
Yeah, so Bub's about 7 months now, right?
Yeah, 7 months old. So I'm not a dad expert, bro. You guys are interviewing like expert dads.
Oh, that's what it's about, man.
Dude,
no.
I have no.
We're on the same journey, like time wise. So mine's coming up to 9 months. Ken's coming up to 12 months. And this whole thing is like the journey of guys who are in business and just sharing that experience as you come through. Because one thing that you just said, which just hits the nail on the head, is something in the back of your mind, like something just instinctively. Well, for me, I had the same thing where I was like, hey, I'm the dad now. Like, I'm not that dude. There's a sense of providing that you've got to have. And so we're all sort of on this journey together. And if we can pull those little bits of knowledge and nuggets and lessons that you've learned and things that, has been passed on your dad, this is like super, super, super valuable, man.
Yeah, so clearly, Bridget, your dad's been a massive influence in your life. And, I love what you've kind of said there when you've gone and your dad introduced you to his friend. You're like that OG guy from TikTok who asks, hey, man, can you tell me what you do for a living? That knocks on the doors.
Yeah.
So you're like the OG of that, go back in the day. So it's like, cool. So how did you get to the wealth in which you've got? Teach me all the lessons, because that's really what it's all about. And even with what we do here, like Brendo and I, we both have mentors in business and in life, in our personal development, in our relationships. And we know that guys, when they become dads, there's all this help for mums out there. And then just such a small amount of help for dads. And really for high performers, it's, you can pick up a book in terms of how to love your children, how to show affection, how to tuck your kids in at night, sleep routines for your babies, but nothing how to kind of balance that dichotomy of being a high performer in your life, in your business and what you do every single day, but also trying to be a high performer dad, because I think they're so completely separate. Historically, the man would just go out, hustle hard, go to work early, come back from work late. If we look at the investment funds, the investment banking or the fund space, historically, these are guys in cubicles working ridiculous hours. They're trying to work every single market around the globe, and give money everywhere. But I think you've taken a different spin on this, right, Bridger?
Yeah, well, first off, I love what you guys do, man. I think it's so valuable to help men in this space. And my approach to business was just that. Like, I wanted to be a dad that could show up and be there for my kids and have plenty of money and time and resources to be a great dad. And so I thought, there's an investing term called asymmetrical risk, where you get high returns for it's not high risk, high return. It's high return for relatively low risk. That's called asymmetrical risk. And so I looked at entrepreneurship as asymmetrical risk, is where I could take risks up front, potentially make a ton of money early on in my 20s, right? When you don't have a big mortgage, I don't have like 5 kids at home. Start young and take some risks, and so that if you make some good money, you can preserve that and have time and money to be a really great dad in the future. Which is, I think, anyways, that's what I've been driving to do, right? Is to do that. Now, some people, I'll just comment this on just fathers in general. I talk about this all the time, and with buddies and friends around me, and I see a lot of people that they hit business or win or make a lot of money or whatever, and they just abandon their families. And it's so sad to see it, and not even abandon their families, but it's really funny that you watch their kids, and their kids grow up and they are on drugs. They're doing crazy stuff. They're out of, they're in jail. They're just doing all sorts of wild stuff. And you go, man, what happened? And I think there's a big deterioration of what happened in the home. And things that were baseline things that happened in the home are gone. Now, I'm no expert, but I grew up I believe my parents did a fantastic job in the home. We had a weekly family night. Every Monday night, we had a family night. We would talk religious things or principles or finances or budgets or whatever as a family. We made sure to have family dinner, family prayer every day. I thought it was fantastic. And little building blocks as a kid. And I had a mentor tell me, if you want to raise good daughters, love their mother, right? I think loving your wife or spouse is huge for kids' psychology. When they see loving and a functional, really good parents, it makes kids want to be better. It makes kids want to, if they see dad running off at strip clubs, it's like, well, maybe I can screw off too. I think your example is massive.
I'm sure you've read the book, Bridger, The 5 Love Languages.
I have heard of it. I've seen all the stuff on it. I've talked about it a million times. I've never read the book though.
Okay. So there's 5 beautiful love languages, and there's actually one that Gary Chapman actually made for parents on teaching them how to love their children, because children have the same kind of process, and they talk about that. The best way to kind of show your child how to show love and to raise your child is actually to show that affection towards your spouse. If you show that affection will kind of foster and grow inside your child. What I really like about the book, and what I think is fantastic, and it's adding to your point, is most people feel that it's what they know or it's what they learn, and then how they implement that as a dad and the money that they bring to the table. But in reality, it's just truly about the love and the family dynamics that you bring in the home. So if you're out working all day and you don't have anything to bring to the home, to add to the home, that means that the child is really being raised by only one person, and that's the mum. And sometimes in those situations, we say it takes a village. But if you don't have the village, it most certainly takes 2, a mum and a dad. And the mum and dad need to both be equally as supportive as each other. They both need to be as equally as involved in the relationship of the child. Because really, especially in the early days, but most times throughout the whole life, and that's actually the goal of parenthood, to have the children look at you as the person of who I want to be. And I think I've mentioned this to Brendo a couple of times, this other book that I was reading. There's a funny culture that we teach in Australia and the US, New Zealand, and the UK, relatively newer civilizations, so to say. UK maybe not as much, but especially the US, Canada, and Australia. And it is the culture of disrespect. So in Asia, in Europe, when you think of something old, you think of something grand. We look at the pyramids, amazing, grand. The Great Wall of China, amazing, grand. The Colosseum, amazing, grand. So old is represented in this amazingness, in this awe, in this wonder. But then when we look at Australia, when we think of something old, we're like, oh, asbestos. Old dilapidated houses, and there's that similar kind of relationship in the US too. And if we teach this, if this continues to happen, then we don't get what we see in other countries, other cultures, this level of respect. And respect is really important for children to have with parents. And I think that's that can be shown in the way you love your wife and the way you show up every single day.
Oh, I love it. I'll comment too. I think, Ken, that's awesome. Something too, I think for high performers, you mentioned that earlier. I had a guy in my show, really high net worth guy, and he's like, dude, it's hard because you want to run your business. You got just your time constraints. He goes, it doesn't matter. It does a little bit, but the time you spend with your kids isn't as important as the quality of time. And he goes, I schedule it literally in my day. I schedule an hour and a half to 2 hours from like 6:30 to 8:30. Let's just call it every night. I am 100% on my kids. Like I'm with them. I'm there. I'm cracking jokes. I'm being funny dad. I'm like wrestling with them. And it's that it's really deep quality time versus, because the mom's with them or whatever, your spouse is with them for 17 hours a day. And if you show up for 2 hours a day, it still does a similar effect, right, to their psychology. So I think that's a cool thing to do. Sorry, Ken.
I really like that. That's a really good way to put it, because I think that's the balance, and we'll work out how you balance, how you balance your life now as a dad. But as you became a dad, and it's still pretty fresh, how did it change your perspective on life? Like, what were those instant things where you went, "Oh, I get it," or what was your experience with that?
There's an old quote that I love. Actually, one of my guy in my church religion, he said it. I just loved it. He says, "No worldly success can compensate for failure in the home." No worldly success can compensate for failure in the home. And as I've had a kid, that has rung so true to me. And I hang out with all these people who are so rich and so whatever. And I have tons. I like making money. I like running businesses. Awesome. I don't say anything bad with that. But I always look at their families. And when I choose a mentor, somebody, I want to see, how did your family turn out through all this success? I've actually been since having a baby, I've been very acute on that. And there's some mentors that, they made a lot of money, and I can learn financial things from those people for sure, but I'm not taking an ounce of family advice from that person because their family is just torn apart. There's a few mentors I found, though. I found one mentor, I love him to death. He's like 70 years old. He's worth like $500 million. He's got 5 kids. All 5 kids I know 4 of them. They are incredible people. They run companies, they're awesome, and they all have grandkids. Their grandkids are amazing people. And I was like, wow, talk about building like something real. There's so many people that are like flash in the pan. They have a Rolex. They look cool or whatever. Now that's real. You can't fake that. You can't fake, 30 people in your posterity that's like this rich family that's just doing incredible things, serving and going out and building companies or hiring people, just good people to society. That takes, Rome's not built in a day. And so it takes brick by brick with you and your spouse to be 100% committed to that. And I think my perspective has changed a ton on that.
Yeah, look, I want to jump in there. I mean, think about how amazing that is, right? So say, for example, there's 30 people that these 2 people just influence over the course of their life that are now doing amazing things. Now, if those 2 people gave them the right teaching, the right principles, the right philosophies, and all of those 30 individuals enveloped that, they're then going to then place that to another 30 people each, and then another 30 people each. And this is how the world compounds and gets better, right? We can either breed and encourage. I don't want to put a label on bad people, right? But then, or we can do it the other way, and we really encourage and envelop and adopt and push all of these amazing things, like that your families the families that you're talking about are doing, which is amazing. So I want to jump in there, Bridget, because I got a pretty cool question that I want to ask you, right? So you work with teaching people how to start investment funds and all these types of things. So how are you preparing your little bub's future? Like, what are you doing for them?
Financially, or just in general?
Both. From a financial perspective and an emotional perspective, yeah.
Number one, financially, I don't want to give an ounce of dollars to my kids ever. Like there's just no, and my parents same way. Like my dad has a ton of money. I might get money when he dies, maybe. I don't know. I have no idea. There's no expectation of me getting any dollars when he dies. And I love that. I think it's a great way. And actually we can talk about like family legacy money. There's some cool things you can build, like a family bank or family, like different, like good ways to build family offices and bad ways to build family offices. And we can talk about that in a minute. As far as emotional and other things, I like intentional parenting. There's this new trend of like, just whatever the kid wants, whenever they're hungry, they can eat, whenever they want to sleep, they can just sleep. And I like more structure. And I think, obviously give people, they obviously have choice. It's not like we're forcing them to do anything, but I think kids like structure, especially when they're kids, because they don't, they're just brand new to this world. And so, we have, structured like as far as naps or eating and stuff as right now. But as he gets a little bit older, when it's a little more impressionable, my dad was so good at teaching me stuff all the time. And my dad, still this day, he is so good. Every time I'm with him, growing up, I learned about mortgages when I was 11 years old. I learned how to short the stock market when I was like 8 years old. Like he'd get on the whiteboard and just teach me like life, like what's a credit score? He taught me that stuff, like how to change tire. Like my dad was so good at being an intentional father to teach me real life skills. I knew what our mortgage payment was in the house, what insurance was, what appreciation was, like just talk housing market. Like he taught me all that stuff and gave me actual numbers. I think parents sometimes are a little they just don't share the numbers. So I got to college and I'm like talking to my roommates about finance and stock market, and they had no clue. They didn't even know how to set up a bank account, you know what I mean? Or how to set up an LLC what is an LLC? What's a company? How do you set up a corporation? No one had ever taught him this stuff. And so my dad was really intentional to me. So I want to be intentional to my son about teaching him, especially finance. I think finance is like the biggest. Just no one learns finance, at least in the United States. I don't know about you guys. No one learns about money.
Probably less.
How money works.
Probably less in Australia.
It's ridiculous, right? So I like being intentional with stuff like that, and those are, I don't know, life skills for sure. And then spiritual stuff as well. Me and my wife we're pretty open about spiritual things and things that we're learning and feeling and stuff that connection to God and our kid's got to learn his own journey, right? He's on his own path, but we want to be there as good mentors and friends for him, and someone that he can rely on and talk to. And I'll tell you a quick story.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Okay? Please do.
This is something that changed my life. This changed my life. I think this is good for dads. This absolutely changed my life. So I was 11, going on 12 years old. Okay, I was going into middle school, and anyways, that's a lot of, puberty, the whole thing, timing, right? So my dad sits me down for the birds and bees conversation, right? So he sits me down, and it's Sunday night, and we start chatting. He goes, Bridger, he goes, if you go out to high school or whatever, and you get your girlfriend pregnant, and you have, whatever, and you come tell me about it, he goes, I won't be mad. And I'm like, huh? Like, what do you mean you won't be mad? And he's like, no, I'll be good. I promise. I won't be mad. Your mom, she'll freak out. She'll be furious, but I'll be fine. And I was like, okay. And he goes, however, you're the one that has to deal with that, kind of problem going forward. We'll try to help you out, whatever, but just understand that's your problem. If you go out and get on drugs and meth and become an alcoholic or on cocaine and you come tell me about it, he goes, I'm not going to be mad. I'll be a little sad for you. And yes, we'll take you to rehab. We're going to help you out through this whole thing. But just understand, though, you're the one that has to go through that. He goes, on the contrary, if you go to school and you get good grades and you get a 4.0 or straight A's and you go to a great university, become a doctor, a lawyer, a great business person, you make tons of money, you build a house on a hill with a fun car and you got everything, right? He goes, that's your life. That's the life you get. That's not my life. I don't get any benefit from that. That's your life. He goes, I got my house, my cars. This is my life. And he goes, don't ever do anything in life based on what your dad or mom will think of you. Do something in life because you want to do it. Don't go to school because we want you to go to school. Go to school because you want to go to school, or don't go to school. And he goes, if you want to be put on a tutu and be a unicorn and, go do ballet, cool. He's like, we don't care. Just do it for you though. Don't do it for us. And I left that meeting. I was like, huh. And it really changed my perspective. I honestly started going to school for me. And I remember a couple months later, I got straight A's on a report card. I went and showed my dad. I'm like, Dad, check it out. Like I got straight A's. Like, look at how cool. And he's like, cool. And I was like, huh. I was like, oh yeah, those aren't his grades. Those are my grades.
I don't need any external validation. I can do. This is for me. Yeah.
Yeah. And I was like, huh, that's cool. And that was, my parents lived that to a T. Every choice was my choice. I didn't have a curfew in high school. They just said, my dad, I remember he told me, he's like, hey, we want you home by midnight, but if you don't come home, just understand your mom will be probably up worried about you. So make sure to call or at least text us or let us know. And funny enough, I was home at about midnight almost every night, right? Because I felt that responsibility. Anyways, college, career, business, like it was, and they did a really good job of that. I think putting your kids in the driver's seat and letting them make decisions and choices and treating them older than they are, I think is so good. I hate when people baby their kids. I'm all about treat them a little bit older than and they'll usually rise to the occasion.
Yeah, wow. It's really, really interesting stuff. And, the relationship that you had with your dad during that time, because you did speak about, your friends didn't really know about that. I know our culture and the way that I grew up, it was very almost rude to speak about money. So I never learned about it growing up either. Did you realize growing up that the way that you were taught by your dad was different?
No, not really, to be honest.
Yeah.
I mean, a little bit. I was like, I kind of learned some cool stuff until I got to college. When I got to college and I had roommates, I realized how little everyone knew about finances and just regular, how the world worked as far as money and how bank accounts and deposits, like the fact that whenever you deposit $1 into a bank account, the bank can go lend that money 15 times out. A lot of people don't know that, right? Like I learned that when I was 14. Right? If you put $1 million into a bank, the bank can literally go make $15 million of loans. That's how that's modern reserve currency system. It's just interesting how the SWIFT system works. Anyways, no, I didn't realize that until college, to be honest. And now we have a company that educates people on finances and funds specifically, just because there's this huge gap. And I'll just say this: if the number one cause of divorce, stress, suicide is finances, is financial reasons. If you could do one thing to maybe save your marriage, finances, it won't solve all your problems, but it helps, right?
Yeah.
It helps quite a bit. So when I got to go, I was like, okay, I'm going to make sure I don't have, there's one problem in life I'm not going to have. It's called money. I'm never going to struggle with money. If I can learn the money game right now, I'm not going to struggle for the rest of my life. So that's that was my mindset.
Yeah, I love that. And I think, sometimes a lot of people, they think if I make more money, all my problems will go away. Well, look, if you have an emotional problem, you have relationship problems, money's not going to solve that. You got to focus on your relationship. But hey, once you have money, if you do get money, right? If you make a lot of money, look, it just makes that stress over that financial part of your house a lot easier. And then you can actually open the conversations about the relationship. But it certainly doesn't make those problems about your relationship go away. And I love, you keep coming back to this, to this comment about, your faith and things like that, which I absolutely love. And I know Brenda and I, we come both from a faithful upbringing. We're both Christians, and we've gone down that cycle, learning about the Christian faith. And what I love about just the ability to pray, or the ability to ask for help when you might not have anybody else around, that's really powerful. And I think for people who aren't necessarily Christian, they have some sort of internal alignment with some sort of greater being or greater power or greater authority or something where you can just ask for help. Because I reckon one of the hardest things for people to do is to just go out and ask someone else for help. But if you can just internally reflect, and even if you're not saying, oh, dear God, please help me with this, it's just like, please, I need help with this. To something greater out there in the universe, please help me. And so I love just tying all that back in, just having that faith along with the alignment of your family and along with, your love and the money. It's all so powerful just to kind of intertwine that. So, Bridget, I've got to ask, right? Because, you've set up all these investment funds, you're doing these amazing things, and you obviously don't want to give your beautiful son any of your money, which is amazing because you want him to be self-learned and self-taught. How do you see that potentially affecting your relationship with your son? Because I've seen a lot of family. I come from a normal family, but I was surrounded by quite wealthy friends. And I know all my wealthy friends were like, Dad, give me this. Mum, give me that. Give, take. So how do you feel that's going to potentially affect your relationship with your son? Or do you think that's just a teaching thing?
I think it's a teaching thing. It's my money. It's not his money. It's my money. Yeah. I'm rich. I love that quote from Shaq, right?
Shaq, yeah.
I'm rich. We ain't rich, right? We ain't rich. I'm rich. I think that's how my parents were.
You got to do it in the Shaq accent.
The reason I like sports cars and buying sports cars and stuff, I buy cars because my dad would never buy a car ever. And I'm like, screw it. I'll just make my own money. For years, I was like, Dad, you should go buy like a cool Ferrari or like a Lambo or something. He's like, nah. And I finally was like, okay, I'll do it. I'll go buy my own, And I think it distills that in your kids. And now if a kid wants something, this is my parents did this to me. Dad, I want like a new iPod or a phone or something. Cool. Let's set a plan to get it, right? Here's some jobs you can do. Here's some things that you can start. Like here's a business that you could go try. You could go work this place. This is how you can accomplish that goal. They don't say no. My parents never said no. They didn't say no. They just said, okay, let's make a plan to accomplish. You want to buy a car in high school? Okay, here's the plan to get to that spot. And so I think that's a good way to go about it. And I think instead of having that give and take, feeling from kids, it kind of creates everyone's on the same team. I would hope to have that where your family's a team. We're all a team together. We're helping each other out and we're going to help each other. And it's not like, oh, there's two teams and we're trying to ask and give and take. We're going to try to make it as one team, but that'll definitely be hard though. I mean, telling your kids they can't have something when, you have tons of money or whatever, or you drive a cool car. It's definitely, you gotta explain that to your kids, but like,
yeah. Or you can take your dad's side of it and just not show any of the money. You could just pretend like you don't have it. And then you find out when you're in high school, But I'm sure your dad didn't have Bang & Social. I actually
know a lot of people that have done that. I know a stupid amount of people that have done that. I know the kids of those people. And I'm like, dude, do you know, like your dad is worth like $200 million? Like literally this morning I was talking to a guy and she didn't know until she was like 23 years old.
Yeah, wow.
This girl. They went on nice trips and they just had fun, but like it was just kind of normal. Like they lived in a nice house for sure, but it wasn't anything crazy, and Kids don't really have a good concept unless you really flaunt or you're like really out with that. Like kids really don't have a perspective on that. They kind of do, but
so we got under 10 minutes to go now because obviously we're conscious of your time. So we want to get some like really good, stuff to be able to take away on what can they do now. Everyone's going to be in a different financial position, and obviously you help people, with funds and your experience with finance. So no matter where anyone's up at the moment, they've started a young family, and they're almost starting this financial journey now. So how does one prepare to become financially independent? Like, what's the starting points for someone to say, hey, we're speaking to Bridger. We've listened to this podcast. We really want to take care of this. How do I start?
Yeah, I mean, as far as the entrepreneurial journey, at least for me, I consumed a lot of content. I consumed a lot of books, and I shopped businesses for a long time. You can work on your 9 to 5 for 8 hours, right, in the day, but Saturdays or nights, you should be working on yourself, right? Work on your business. There are stupid ways to make money right now. Just stupid. There are people selling pet rocks online and making millions of dollars. Literally pet rocks. There are people selling. I mean, it is stupid. Like the way I have my business partner. His little brother's in high school. He's 17 years old. He makes $8,000 a month in high school. He has a sneaker group. People pay $50 a month to be part of his Discord, and he helps find sneakers. Like there are stupid. You don't need to be a genius. You don't need to be the next Mark Zuckerberg. You don't need to like invent Google. There are really easy ways to make money. A predictable, easy way to make money: buy a house, live in the basement, rent the upstairs. That pays for your mortgage. You do that for a year, you buy another house. You live in the basement, you rent the upstairs. You do that on another house, another house, another house. I went to lunch with a guy today. He's done that. He has 18 houses right now. That's a way that idiots can become millionaires. Right?
I have a buddy, his name's Neil. He runs a company over here in Perth called HMO Property Co. He literally teaches people how to build 6x6 dwellings, rent every single room out, live in the one room so you can claim. We have a grant over here in Australia, so if you live in the house, you get $30,000 to $50,000 from the government as your first property. So he does that, and then he teaches these kids so that you have your first house. This is now a HMO. There's 5 other people renting with you. It pays for your mortgage plus your pocket money, plus all your spending money and all the payments for the home, and now you can utilize that equity to buy another home and another home and another home. So I so totally agree there, right? When you want to make money, you don't know what you want to do from an entrepreneurial journey. Buy a house that you can then rent something and then sell and then live somewhere else. In Australia, no houses have basements over here. Does not exist, but everything else totally does. So
yeah, that's
Bridger,
awesome.
Yeah, so. Man, look, you're obviously like, I have to come back to cryptos, right? I know Brendo's wants to wrap this up because he's got to go see his lovely daughter. But I'm a crypto dude. Brendo's a crypto dude as well. We like to invest in crypto. So tell us, what are you paying attention to? Like, I like the NFT space I like the DeFi space and a little bit of the NFT space. What are you into?
I mean, I think blockchain in general is just such a good technology. Now, I'm the fun guy. My business partner is the crypto guy. So I'm not like this deep technical analysis crypto guy, but I do love the DeFi space. There's a lot of arbitrage right now in crypto that you can grab easy gains on. Now our entire fund, even if there's no market movement, we believe will perform very well based on staking and DeFi projects that we're into. We're across like 50 or 60 different ecosystems and coins that we get into. Yeah, it's cool. But as far as just general, I think NFT space is going to have a major correction. Like all technologies, they have this run up and then they have this trough of disillusionment and then they have this plateau of productivity. And so I think we're at that hype cycle. We will see a drop and then we'll see a plateau of productivity. The art NFT world, I'm not a big believer in, but utility NFTs, I'm totally a believer in utility.
That's the only thing
utility long-term will win. Things that make sense. There's a great example. One coin, they saved Walmart $243 million last year in supply chain. It was a cryptocurrency, right? There's other coins that measure certain transaction speed and volume. There's really, I love utility blockchains. Yes, you can gamble and make money in crypto for sure, but I would make sure whatever you're investing into has a docs team, a really good team where founders, they're on LinkedIn. You can find their house. Like they're not these Russian bros that are just like anonymous. Okay. Docs team, they have a good roadmap, really good roadmap and an executable roadmap. And then number 3, utility. If they meet those 3 things, that's actually qualifiers for, we have a piece of our fund for moonshots. If they fit those 3 things, we can actually put them into our part of our portfolio. But if I'm looking at any project, those are the 3 that I go after.
That's another good book, Moonshots. If you haven't read it, it's a good book. But yeah, totally. I love the DeFi space. The NFT space is something that I just like play around with. When I get money in, I have specific money going to different accounts. That's my little like, ooh, this is my gambling money, because NFTs for me are just like gambling. Like I don't know what's going to happen, but let's just throw some money and see what happens. So Brenda,
Can I say one more thing back on just dads and family? I know we're trying to wrap up here. Something I think is massive that people don't talk about as much is like this is people's sex lives. I know a lot of men and women and marriages that have terrible sex lives. And me and my wife, we both didn't have sex until we were married. And I think, anyways, that's beside the point that we did that. We can talk about that. But me and my wife are very open. We do a weekly or monthly, we sit down and talk about our relationship. And hey, what's going well? What can we improve on? And what are some invites that we can give each other? Dude, if you want to save your marriage, if you can nail your marriage with your spouse, a lot of this other stuff, kids and everything, usually end up being pretty good, right? But if your marriage is rocky and it's all over the place, it tends to show up in the kids. And so I would really focus on your relationship with your spouse and your wife. I think that's a great place to start, is having that. We sit down, we call it like companionship inventory. We sit down and we go face to face. Okay, what are we doing well? What's going good? I say compliments about her. She says compliments about me. And they say, okay, and then I ask, how can I improve? What can I do better? And she asks, how can I improve and do better? And it does wonders for our relationship. On that same meeting, we do a financial meeting. I want my wife to understand all of our finances, how it all works. We have like 30 bank accounts and all these other things. I want her to know how it all works and runs. And then finally, we'll talk about our sex life. Like, I think it's a little taboo, even between spouses. Like, hey, what do you like? What do you not like? Like, anyways, I think it's a good thing to talk about and bring up. And there's a guy I met, we've become friends now. He runs a company called the Married Game. He teaches men how to have more game in their sex life. And one of the biggest things he talks about, which I thought was cool, is women want to have sex. I think a lot of men are like, man, my wife, I just never, like, a lot of men want to have sex, and a lot of women, that's what they think at least, don't want to have sex. He goes, women want to have sex. They just want to have it in the right way and at the right time and with the right man as well. And his point with, you guys can go to marriedgame.com. He's got an awesome thing. He's way better than me, but he talks about, like having game. Take your wife out on date, like date your wife, be the man, like be someone that she wants to go out with, right? And get with, and women typically, even though they don't admit it, they like to follow people who are leaders. Women like to follow leaders. It was funny. I was at a conference with him, and he has sorry, I'm going too long here, but he goes, women in the room, think through who was your crush when you were like 13 years old. And he goes, think about it. And he goes, were they a leader at their school or whatever? Raise their hands. And like almost the whole room raised their hands. He goes, men, close your eyes. Think about your 13-year-old crush. Was that woman a leader? And only like 10% of the room raised their hand. And he goes, women are attracted to leaders, whether they believe it or not. Back when they were 13 years old, they wanted a guy who was on the captain of the certain team or kind of was a cool person in this. They like leaders. And so, that doesn't mean you need to go like lead an army into war, but like, lead your family, right? Be that leader and do it with your spouse. You don't need to be dominant. You need to be equal partners with your spouse, but step up, be a man, be a leader, Be one, and it makes you more attractive to your spouse. And this is what this guy teaches. He's like, dude, I'll and it helps in your sex life. It helps in every part of your relationship. I think too many men kind of cower away, or I don't know, whatever ends up happening over years. And I thought it was a pretty cool concept. And I think just being open about it, talking about it, being open to your spouse, and then being a leader, I think is massive. And anyways, can lead to a lot of growth. I think a lot of men get stuck.
Yeah, we can unpack that so much there, Bridget, because there's a lot of this like emotional energy and specifically like feminine and masculine energy that goes on in today's society because of our generation. You know, we're all around, at least you and I are around the same age range, Bridget. Sorry, Brendan,
man. I'm the old dude in the group here.
Category. Yeah.
I love that you guys are fit, by the way. Dude, I hate the dad bod thing. That's the dumbest crap on planet Earth. Like, be ripped. Be like, what? Anyways,
no. So this is one question I wanted to get from you before we went, because I am a fitness dude. Ken and I actually met through the fitness industry, but I've grown up in that world and like very, very heavily involved in it. So one question I love to ask is, and you're obviously, look like you're in great shape. What do you do to take care of your fitness now that you have a child and those added things into your life? Because like you said, dad bod, it can be a thing. It happens. How do you take care of your fitness?
Number one, dude, I hate the dad bod mentality. Like the mentality of like, oh, like I just gonna give up on myself. Like, why? Like, your wife's gonna leave you for someone who else is who like you would like. Anyways, it's ridiculous in my brain. You need like, especially guys that are in their 20s. I'm in my mid 20s. You have no excuse not to be in decent shape. You have, you're at the best peak. And anyways. You don't need energy drinks. Dudes, I don't know if you guys do energy drinks and stuff. Like, dude, you're 22. You do not need energy drinks. You don't need to be popped up. I have guys that like drink 2 or 3 energy drinks a day just to get out of bed. Dude, you're 22. You should have plenty of energy. Something is wrong in your diet or your water consumption or whatever. Like something is wrong if you don't have energy at this point of life.
I agree. I did have a coffee this morning because I wanted to make sure I could perform on the podcast. I could drink a glass of water, but I just wanted to double check I was going to be able to perform well.
And there's different levels of that, and you can get crazy on that. But like just in general, people that are popping Adderall and pills and like you're 24. Yeah, okay, maybe when you're 50 that you can do but you should have enough just from your diet and food and all that kind of stuff to give you enough energy and everything that's going on. It's just a mindset. I think it's truly a mindset. My mindset for fitness, I want to do stuff long-term. It's how I invest too. Everything's long-term. So I try to drink, I only drink water primarily. I really don't. I think if you drink a lot of water every day, it'll flush toxins and crap out of your body and fat out of your body. You can pee it out. It's the easiest way to get fat off your body, just pee it out. I drink tons of water. I try to work out do something every single day. With a baby, I don't care if that's my mindset. I'm going to do something every day. It could be a 5-minute ab workout on YouTube. It could be whatever it is. I do something every day. I drink a ton of water and I actually try to sleep. I know with a baby, it's hard to sleep, but we were actually way into sleep training and making sure sleeping, but try to get good sleep. If you can do that your whole life, there's others, you can count macros, you can go way deep, but like if you can do those things, if you drink a lot of water, if you do something every day that's physical and you get decent sleep, I think it's a recipe for a healthy life. But what do you guys think?
Yeah, man, 100%. We totally agree because we love that stuff. And I think we need to get you on the podcast again to unpack all of that because I think you have a wealth of knowledge in a whole heap of different industries and areas. I think we got to get you on for season 2 and part 2 of Mr. Bridget Pennington. But hey, before we close this off, what's one question no one has ever asked you around either being a dad, generating wealth, running a business, balancing time that you wish they had asked?
I would say the question would be like I'll get back to this, how my faith has helped me with everything in my life. I never get asked that question at all. And it's probably the biggest piece of my life that's helped me the most.
So let me ask that question then. How has faith helped you become the person you are today?
There we are. I mentioned this earlier. I'm religious. I believe in God. I'm a Christian. I'm a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, the Mormons. If you heard of the Mormons, the guys riding around in white shirts, that was me. I did that for 2 years in Taiwan. I think it's one of the most beautiful things on planet Earth. I think it's incredible. And just, we mentioned this, belief in God in general, I think is amazing. And almost every major decision in my life, I've approached God in prayer and felt like I've received direction or inclinations to marry my wife, have a child, start businesses. I mean, I'm a very prayerful person. Not everything is given an answer, but I feel like all of us, whether you're religious or not, God's there and God cares about you as his children. And so, and I think anybody can tap into that. And it's a really cool side of life that I think a lot of people don't realize. And on the other side, God expects us to, if we can, live worthy of that and become more godly, become more Christ-like, become more, and the more we become like God and the more we become like Christ, and I'm nowhere near that, but it allows us to feel the Spirit more and to tap into that and have a more closeness to the spiritual side of things. And I believe in a God that loves us all and cares about us and wants us to improve and wants us to get better and loves us where we are, but wants us to become a better person, and will keep nudging us. Will keep trying to get us to do more things. And I think every person on planet Earth has experience in their life that lead them to belief in God. And so I'm a true believer in God. I'm a believer in Jesus Christ and as our Savior on planet Earth. And I am very prayerful about everything I do. And just last thing I'll say, and on that note of prayerfulness, I think a lot of us don't give God a chance to answer us. I think some people are like, you know what, screw it. I'll try talking to God or try prayer. And what they do is they do a pizza prayer. I call them a pizza prayer. They go, hey God, can I get X, Y, and Z, K? And they hang up. They order a pizza and they hang up. And they don't give a chance for a response. And anyways, for me at least, and everyone's different, but for me, I try to, when I pray, I'll ask a question or I'll prepare myself mentally very well. Hey, I think about a business I'm going to start or something. I'm going to start this business. I'll go all the pros and cons. I'll do it all the work. I do all the work. And then I present my idea to God. I'd say, God, what do you think about this? I really would like to do X. What do you think? And I will be quiet for 3, 4, 5, 7 minutes. I just listen. I listen to my feelings, how I feel, inclinations. And then I ask, should I not do this thing? Right? Should I not do this? And I reflect on that, and I try to make it more of a conversation, less than a pizza prayer. That has kept me out of so much trouble in my life. It's funny. I had a business partner. I was going to do a business. This guy was a super rich dude, the perfect business partner. Everyone told me I was an idiot. This guy offered to do a fund with me. This guy's twice my age. He's super wealthy. Bridget, let's do a fund together. I want you to build it for me. We'll be partners. You'll make all this money. I said, cool. And I just did not feel good about it. Didn't sit right with me. I prayed about it, did not feel good. And I said, okay, I'm going to follow. And I didn't do it. And a couple comes out, this guy, huge blow up, like 8 months later, blows up. Whole family blows apart. He's been cheating on his spouse for years. He's been lying to business partners. He's been, all this stuff comes out, and total, fraud in a lot of areas of his life. And I was like, wow, what a dodged bullet. Right. And, I would invite people to just tap into that. Doesn't matter. I don't really care what religion or domination. I love my church and what we do. And I believe it's awesome, especially for families. Me and my wife, we believe we're sealed eternally, not just this life, but the next life. And it's awesome. And I could just talk about it for hours and hours. I think it's a beautiful thing of life. And I think it's a side of life that a lot of men don't talk about or don't tap into. And I think it's crucial. I think it's something that really buoys you up and helps you when you're down and when you're low too. When you got no one to talk to, I think that's a place to turn. So
that's so cool, man.
Amazing, bro. Hey, look, that was so awesome.
Bridger, thank you so much, man. So much good energy, so much good advice. I'd love to have you back on in the future as you progress as well, because there's so much that we could have unpacked today. But for anyone who's listening, to find out more, you can go find Bridger online at www.investmentfundsecrets.com/free gift. And also find him on Instagram at Bridger, that is BRIDGER_Pennington, PENNINGTON. And catch up with him there. Bridger, awesome. Thank you so much, dude.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you.